Hello, Roadrunners. Welcome back to this edition of Rio Talk. My name is Enrique Medina, joined by John Rodriguez. In today's episode of Rio Talk, we're going to be talking about the recent and final presidential debate between Republican nominee and current president of the United States, Donald Trump, and Democratic presidential nominee, Joe Biden, who currently just had their final debate tonight. And in other news, we're also going to be discussing the recent Dodgers World Series title run. Right now, they're currently tied 1-1 in the World Series against the Tampa Bay Rays, with Game 3 set for Friday night. So first off, John, I got to tell you, I really love the sticker you have on your shirt, the I voted shirt. Don't think I didn't notice that. That's awesome, man. So just to reiterate for you guys watching the Real Talk right now, just make sure with just a few weeks left, truly a few days left to vote, make sure you guys vote. Get your votes in early. November 3rd is election day. Make sure you guys are doing what you can, talking with the people you know who might know things about propositions or anything like that. Do your own research. Do whatever you need to do to make sure you're informed about each candidate, each propositions, everything that you need to know in order to know on your part that you're making the decision that you want to make, of course. So yeah, like yet again, just make sure you guys are participating because your vote truly does matter. Make sure you're getting out there and being politically active, especially with this election coming up. It's a big time in this country right now, so make sure you guys are out there making a difference. Is there anything else you might want to add with that, John, or you think?
Nah, I mean, you pretty much just summed it up very well. Just make sure that your voice is
Of
being
course,
heard.
yeah.
This is our country.
We want to see a lot more of those stickers. We want to see
Yeah.
a lot more of those stickers for sure.
Hmm.
So
It's
let's
our
get into our first
choice.
topic. As I mentioned, yeah, of course, our choice on who we want to elect. And that's leading into my next point. We had the last presidential debate today between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. There's a lot of things that we could say that were similar to that first debate,
Hmm.
but we also had a little bit more unique viewpoints that we got in this debate between Trump and Biden. What are some of the things that stood out to you in this debate? What are some things that you might expect going forward leading into November 3rd and election day?
Well, for sure, many things stood out to me. I mean, like there was a little similarities to the first debate as we talked about like a couple weeks ago. But at the end of the day, it was like kind of like unprofessional, in my opinion. Both were interrupting as much as they can. And what I noticed a lot about the debates was that when they would finish up a topic, one would like have a counter argument, and they wouldn't leave the topic. So I forgot her name, but the one she was asking the questions,
The
as she would
moderator.
answer the questions, yeah, when she was asking the questions, it kind of seemed as if like like it was either Trump or Biden. Like they'll be like, hold up, I want to say something that was just the last comment, and she would constantly say, well, make it like 10 seconds because we had to continue to the next topic. And that's another thing. It kind of seems like they don't want to go over the topics because like they know like they're not gonna have enough information to back it up. And if they do, they know like that most of the audience won't like their answer, and like as I said a couple of weeks ago, it's very unprofessional. Um, but we have to November 3rd to choose who we want to lead this country, and that's pretty much what we got. We
Of
only got till
course.
November 3rd.
Yeah, and to add on to that a little bit, I definitely would say it was more professional than last time. I could see where you think that it was still unprofessional because obviously there were still bits and pieces throughout the debate tonight where some interesting things were said for sure. My biggest takeaway from tonight's debate was the fact that it seemed both candidates were really shying away from pretty much explaining what their plans were. Not necessarily shying away, but the focus was more on really talking bad about the other candidate than really talking about their plan for the country if they were to be elected, you know. That's probably my biggest takeaway from it, but there still is a lot of takeaways from it, specifically with some of the things both candidates said. Let's start off with what Donald Trump said in one of the comments he stated during the debate. There was the issue that was brought up about race, and he actually commented saying that I am the least racist person in this room.
Correct.
So there's definitely so many people that have different thoughts on that, different opinions. What was kind of your thoughts on his comment, and specifically that comment on him saying that he was the least racist person in the room?
Well, if he wasn't the racist person in the room, then why would he call coronavirus the Chinese virus? We've heard him in multiple interviews talk about that. I know for a fact like that was not true, because there's been multiple interviews where they would ask him about the coronavirus, and then the last debate as well. He didn't call it the coronavirus. He said the Chinese virus, and he pointed fingers to the Chinese, saying that, or to China, saying like, it's their fault. Basically, that's how we, that's how we got it. This is the situation we're in. It's their fault. But if you don't think Chinese virus is, racist, then I don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing that I did notice is that Trump really talked and referred to Biden and what he did in his first term, or well, when he was the vice president to Barack Obama. Do you think that kind of took a hit potentially on Biden? And he mentioned a lot, Donald Trump did, about Biden's lack of action during his term as vice president with Barack Obama. Do you think those type of comments might affect Biden and his election come forth election day?
In some ways, yes. But like, the point of the debates is trying to get people on your side. And like, if his vice president terms, like if there were some things that he didn't agree with, and he could come up with an argument to explain, like, why things didn't go, like, why things didn't go as well as planned, that's probably perhaps him and Barack, could have thought of. For example, one thing I could think about in the debate was that they talked about, the cages with ice.
That
That
was a
was,
big for sure.
yeah, that was something like, I think Trump wanted to get a lot of people's attention, especially with people that have, like, immigrant relatives here. Like,
Of
he's
course.
saying, like, like, hey, you might point fingers at Trump because of that, but let's not forget who came up with the idea of the cages. And it was, under Obama's plan, and Vice President, Biden was part of it. And,
Hmm.
he didn't want, it kind of seemed like as if he didn't want to own up to it. Like, he didn't want to admit, like, like, hey, it didn't go as planned, or this was a bad idea, or whatever it was. But yeah.
Would you say this debate really changed anything, changed the ideas of the voters for who they might want to vote come election day? Or would you say people really have had their mindset on who they're going to vote, and it's just a matter, of putting their vote in or waiting to put their vote in? Do you think this debate really changed people's opinions on either candidate, or would you say it just really kept both candidates stagnant and, people with the same views on them?
I think in ways, no. I feel like if people already have an idea, like once they're gonna go and vote, I really think that they have an idea like who they're gonna vote for, because a debate, as I mentioned before, it's like, to prove points, to make points made, like, of why not to vote for this, why not to vote for this candidate, and why to vote for, themselves instead. But at the same time, you gotta look at, like, both perspectives. We've seen Biden as vice president, we've seen like the things that he could do, and we've seen Trump as president for the past 4 years. We know what both of them are capable of, and it's on us to decide, like, who we want to take the power, and to take, like, to have the power of being president, and who we would want to give, like, the
The
basically
presidency, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically the word president, to take control over this country, to take over this great nation. And overall, like, as I said, like a couple of weeks ago in the other Real Talk, like, this is America right now, and like, we have to choose, like, who's gonna who's going to run this country. So we have to make a decision. But at the end of the day, I don't really think that this debate kind of helped. Um, it's up to the voters. It's up to the American citizens to decide, hey, which one was worse, President Trump's, his past 4 years, or Obama and Biden, their plans, like which one was better, which one was worse, who you guys want to go for.
And you do bring up a really interesting point there, the fact that you mentioned that both have had experience already. One is vice president, and of course, the other is the current president right now. So, in a sense, people have already seen what what these candidates are capable of. They might know what to expect, and they already might have their minds cleared up on who they're going to vote for. And this debate potentially could maybe have swayed a few votes over to one side or the other. Time will tell. But just to continue with that, just want to remind those who are watching this Real Talk today that make sure you're all informed on whatever candidate it is that you're going to vote for, and for whatever propositions you're going to vote for. Make sure you do your research on potential voting locations where you guys could drop off your ballots and things of that nature. I know we talked about it in last episode, but also make sure for those potential, I guess you could say, quote unquote scams, make sure you're putting your ballots in the correct mailboxes. Make sure you're not falling for any traps or things of that nature, and do all the research in general. I keep emphasizing research, but it truly is important. Do your research on how to turn in your ballots, on who to vote for and what to vote for, because ultimately that's what's going to make a difference in shaping the direction of the country in the future. So just wanted to reiterate that again for all of you watching, and just make sure you all do your part in shaping America's future. And with that said, I wanted to switch off into the next topic. Like I had mentioned earlier, the Dodgers are in their third World Series in the past 4 years, the 2020 World Series. They're currently playing the Tampa Bay Rays and are set for Game 3 tomorrow, Friday night. This time, the Dodgers will be the road team in Game 3, but as we saw, the Dodgers were able to take Game 1, but couldn't quite come back with that same energy in Game 2. We saw a really good Rays team come back and show, why they're there, why they are the American League champions for a reason. So I wanted to get your thoughts on Games 1 and Games 2, and what are some of your thoughts going into Game 3 and the rest of the series beyond?
Well, to me, I honestly think that this World Series it's not really a hitter's World Series that people may think. In my opinion, it's a pitching World Series, because you look at Game 1, Kershaw dominated that World Series. The three former MVPs dominated. You look at Kershaw, Betts, and Cody Bellinger. All three of them won MVP, and they own Game 1. Betts with both of them hit. I think Cody Bellinger hit the home run. Betts with another great catch. But then again, I think the main story of Game 1 was Clayton Kershaw, how dominant he looked. And people may say that, he doesn't do good in the postseason. Well, he proved to everyone, hey, Game 1 World Series, he means business. And I think that's a very important case. You look at Game 2 for the Braves, it was the same story, just a different team. The Braves starting pitcher dominated. He pitched about 5 innings, got in the middle of a jam. That's what made the Rays manager go out, change the pitcher. But you look at it, it kind of seemed like the first 4 innings, the Dodgers were unhittable. They didn't get a single base hit until the 5th or 6th innings. They might have gotten runners on scoring positions, but those were walks. They weren't hits. So, to me, in my opinion, this is going to be a good pitching matchup.
One thing I do want to mention in regards to Game 2, we did see Blake Snell dominate early on, but the Dodgers pitching really kept the Rays at bay for the first few innings. Brandon Lau did come up with a big solo home run in the first inning, and a big it was a 2-run home run off of Dustin May later in the game. But one thing I do want to mention is about the Dodgers' mistakes in Game 2, because as much as people might not look at it, there was a few really costly decisions costly plays during Game 2. I don't know if you remember, but in one of the innings, G-Man Choi hit an easy ground ball to Kike Hernandez for a potential double play. and the Dodgers were only able to get one out of that play. It was hard enough to get two. It's just that Kike Hernandez bobbled the ball, couldn't get it to Seager fast enough so he could throw out G-Man Choi at first. That was a big play because it eventually led to a two-run double later in the inning by Joey Wendell, or two-run triple. I don't remember if it was a triple or a double, but it was a two-run scoring hit from Joey Wendell later in that inning. So that, thinking about it and thinking about that play specifically, you knock out 2 runs off the board, and that's a potential 4-4 game because the way things turned out at the end of game 2, the Dodgers lost by 2 runs, 6-4. You take away those 2 runs, the Dodgers could be looking at having a 2-0 lead with Walker Buehler set to pitch game 3 tomorrow night. So I think the story of game 2 for Los Angeles specifically, it was about the mistakes. Even then, Dave Roberts took a lot of criticism, got a lot of criticism for his pitching changes early in the game, only keeping Tony Gonsolin for about an inning and 2/3, if I remember correctly. Didn't even keep him in for a full 2 innings.
You're
And
right.
then even then, putting in Dustin May to face off against Brandon Lowe and not get the job done. He's been using him a lot out of the bullpen. He's had mixed results so far. Didn't pitch too great in game 7. Pitched pretty solid in game 1 of the division series. In his start in game 5 in the championship series, he didn't pitch too great either. And my bad on the game 1 of the division series part. I was referring to game 1 of the championship series out of the bullpen. He pitched pretty well there. But like I mentioned, he's had mixed results so far. So I think the story of game 2 for the Dodgers was about costly mistakes because they truly could be looking at a 2-0 series lead right here. But I want to get your thoughts on game 3 and beyond. Dave Roberts did announce that game 3 will go to Walker Buehler. Game 4 will go to Julio Urias. And game 5 will be again the game 1 starter, Clayton Kershaw. Game 3 specifically, Rays manager Kevin Cash has already announced that it'll be Charlie Morton. He hasn't announced the other starters yet. But what are kind of your thoughts going into game 3 through 5 of this series?
Well, technically, even though they're still playing at Texas, technically they are the away team. So they're got to pretend like, like, hey, we're not in Los Angeles. We're in Tampa Bay. We're in their territory. We're gonna hit first. We're gonna hit first. And they're gonna have the last opportunity to try score some runs. If we have the lead, that's good. But if you're down runs by the ninth inning, then they gotta do what they gotta do to try to stay alive. But as for the pitching matches up, for sure, I think tomorrow, like I said, with game 1s and game 2, like basically same story, just like different team with the good pitching. Obviously the Rays
versus Walker Buehler. That's a great matchup.
Yeah, game 2, like I said, Snell pitched a great game, but unfortunately his bullpen wasn't able to do the same thing. Cost him, it was a close game, 6-4.
Pressure a lot. The Dodgers put a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah, they put a lot of pressure. Like they mean business. But tomorrow, I think tomorrow's gonna be a great matchup. I think as long as game 3, like with the championship series, if they're able to score, I want to say at least 3 runs in the first 3 innings, and if Walker Buehler's like, I think at most,
for sure.
Yeah, I think at most,
really
if he only gives up 1 run in the first 3 innings, I think he could take it all the way to the 5th or 6th inning. Because what I've noticed, especially in the postseason, is that Roberts doesn't really keep. I think at most he'll keep him for like the 5th or 6th inning. I think at the most. Like I think even at the 6th, I think that's kind of pushing it, because he wants to give opportunities to the bullpen.
I think that's just kind of been a pattern that's been occurring with all postseason managers, at least the past few seasons. A lot of managers now are really taking their pitchers out of the game very quickly. As soon as they see them getting in trouble, they'll automatically put somebody in the bullpen. Maybe the exception with that is for developed and already, name-worthy guys like a Clayton Kershaw or like a Blake Snell, a Walker Buehler. But if it's, lesser known guys like a Tony Gonsolin, or maybe potentially if a Ryan Yarbrough starts series for Tampa Bay, they might have shorter leashes. So there's that aspect to it. And going into game 3 and 5, at least specifically game 3, I think it'll be a story about which starter pitches better. Because even on the Rays side of things, Charlie Morton actually faced the Dodgers in the 2017 World Series with the Houston Astros. He pitched a very great game 4. I believe it was seven one-run innings that he pitched against them, or seven shutout innings. I think 1 run was charged on his side from a runner he left on base. But then that was game 4. He wound up pitching game 7, and he got the final outs for the Astros' first championship. And he totally had Dodgers hitters fooled throughout that whole series. So do you think we'll see a repeat performance tomorrow night, or do you think the Dodgers will be a little bit more locked in this time than they were just 2-3 years ago?
I feel like for sure, because 2 or 3 years ago, it may not be that long, but at the same time, that was an old team. This is a new team. I really do feel like they're locked in. Mookie Betts, he's game mode right now. Cody Bellinger, we're seeing him get hot. San Diego said that he was in a slump. He comes out of the championship he's swinging the bat really well. He's hitting those runs. He's bringing the runs in. You look at, Max Muncy. I don't think he gets enough credit to this team. John Pearson, 2 years ago, I think he would have been the World Series MVP. I honestly think he's one of the best World Series hitters for the Dodgers because, it kind of seems like the World Series is like where he's at, where he's
One
focused.
moment
And
is too
most
big for
importantly,
as
yeah,
it seems like, of course.
yeah, and most importantly, Corey Seager. I honestly think he's doing everything he can to try to win this one. Let's not forget that Corey Seager did not play in the 2018 World Series. He was injured, so he didn't get a chance for the redemption. This year, this is technically his second year playing in the World Series. This is redemption for 17. He wants it really bad. But the matchup that I'm really excited for is Game 4, Urias, because Corey Seager may have won the NLCS MVP, but in my opinion, if it was to go to a pitcher, Urias would have taken it
Of
because he
course.
was lights out,
He was lights out.
against the Braves. Every time he came out to the mound, he was lights out. He threw heat. He had good velocity. He was just lights out. Hardly gave out any runs. If he gave up a run, it was because of a bad pitch, which would lead to a home run. But other than that, he was mostly solid. He threw his pitches where he wanted to. I'm really excited for Game 4's matchup more than
Yeah,
I am
he,
about
he only
tomorrow.
allowed he only allowed 1 run in the championship series. That was off a Christian Pache home run from the Atlanta Braves. It was actually
Hmm.
his first MLB home run, and that was all the Braves were scoring him in that whole series. He closed out the final 3 innings of Game 7, and the rest is history. So he's
Hmm.
going to be getting the Game 4 start. But
Hmm.
just to finish off, before we finish off the episode, by next week's episode, we'll most likely have it. We will have a champion by then. If there's one thing they think the Dodgers need to do to be world champions by the time we look at the episode next week, what's that one thing you need? Whether it's a player performing or maybe the bullpen, a certain aspect of the game. What do you think is going to be the key difference in the Dodgers potentially winning the World Series? And what do you think that key difference could potentially be, maybe even for the Rays?
Well, the way I see it, honestly, as Dave Roberts says, just you gotta take the game one game at a time. You know, you gotta learn from your mistakes from your previous games. If you play the sport, especially if you play in high school, that you would go to the locker rooms, you would look at videos, and it's the same thing in professional. They go watch videos, they look at their mistakes, they see what they could come up with their mistakes. You say Kiki Hernandez messed up a ground like a basic you know basic grounder, correct? Kiki's
Mhm.
looking at it hey, I gotta learn from this mistakes. Honestly, I think the Dodgers got, you know, they seem pretty solid. They just gotta work on their starting pitching. If you know they gotta attack the Rays hard in the beginning. That's one thing. If they give an
Yeah.
opponent some early runs, they're gonna think oh man, we gotta come back, or oh, we gotta show up, as our banks. But most importantly for the Dodgers, they can't leave runners in scoring position. We've seen this for multiple years. It's, to me, it's kind of weird because it seems as if almost every time when we get two outs, we always have two runners on base. It seems like that almost every inning, in my opinion. And I always notice that when we score runs, it's always when there's two outs. Like at Cody Bellinger, he hit that home run when there was two outs. You look at Kike, he hit that home run when there was two outs in the a week ago. So, but in my opinion, we can't have runners in scoring position. We can't leave them stranded. I think the pitching, they gotta attack the Rays hard. In the beginning, they gotta show them like, hey, like, they mean business. For the Rays side, kind of like the same thing. What's his name? That rookie, he hasn't got his momentum yet. If he gets it soon, then yeah, if he gets his momentum as he's played against the Astros, then the Dodgers gotta attack him hard, which I'm pretty sure that they're confident.
Yeah.
They don't really. I honestly don't think that
Yeah.
the Dodgers have to worry too much on defense. You look at Cody, you look at Mookie, they got nominated for a Gold Glove. So we'll see what happens. Though.
Yeah. And what I personally think will be the difference in this series on who will win, I think it goes back to kind of some of the stuff you mentioned. I think the ultimate difference is going to be on who can make more contact, specifically contact in big situations as well. Who could strike out less, honestly. And I think that and whose pitching is going to come up better in these next few games. Whoever could pitch better and make more contact, I think, will wind up winning this series. As much as both teams have been more reliant on the home run ball, I think the team who could make more contact and could have better pitching, better starting pitching, and bullpen pitching, the best mix of those two, I think will ultimately come out as World Series champions. So hopefully it could be. Hopefully it could end up being the Dodgers. We'll have to wait and see. But like I
This is kind of
mentioned,
this is kind of risky, but I'm gonna call it out. I don't think there's gonna be a game 7. I think it's gonna be up to game 6. Who the winner is, we will have to wait and see until next episode.
in game 6, we'll see. That's a bold prediction for sure. A lot of people have predicted that it'll go all 7, but only time will tell.
We'll
So
see.
with that said, Road Runners, thank you for joining again for this episode. Hopefully all you guys enjoyed. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at El Paisano Media. Again, my name is Enrique Medina, joined by John Rodriguez. Thank you guys for joining once again.